Okay, greetings everyone. We have one of the subscribers to my channel, or at least one of the viewers, has presented some information in an email to me regarding the North Pole. And I told him, let's just do a presentation together so that way we can get some information out to the population, because I believe this is going to be a concerted effort on trying to raise awareness on what is at the North Pole and what is going on up there exactly. Because as we know, there's a lot of military activity that keeps us from going to the North Pole. Why? That's what we want to know. So here we go. Now, my friend's name is Jeff, and he wants to give this presentation to everyone. So everybody, please welcome Jeff. And here we go. Take it away, Jeff.
All right. Thank you. So I guess this is just kind of like a 101 style video. And I put together a bunch of slides, and it's just kind of a general orientation, I guess I'd say. And I'm going to try to transpose the Mercator map onto Google Earth. It's going to be a little bit of a rough job, but we'll see. So anyway, a couple sections I have is Arctic distances orientation, notable locations. I'm going to compare the Mercator map and Google Earth. And then I'm going to go for this transposition, I should say. And then I'm going to look at a particular town at the end. And it's almost just kind of a bunch of rough ideas. And I was looking into this back about 5 years ago, and I stopped. And this is kind of where I left off. And then we get in communication. So here we go. Arctic distances orientation. So we all know this from Google Maps. And just to give an idea of the distances up there, this is what we're dealing with. I'm going to say in miles, about 2,700 up and down and 1,600 left and right. And here's the Arctic Circle on the right. And that's about how big it is, to put in perspective compared to the United States. It fits in about that much. And so we can see here the red and the blue. The blue is from San Francisco to Philadelphia, and the red is the diameter of the Arctic Circle. So we're dealing with about 2,500 miles from here to here. And so the actual Arctic Circle is about 3,100 miles. So this is just to kind of put it into perspective of what kind of distances are we dealing with up here. And that's it for that. And then this couple of notable locations up there. And at the end, we're going to see this little, nothing you see here, folks, which is what we would expect from the authorities. So a couple of locations here. We have the geographic North Pole from Wikipedia, and this is the coordinates for it. I just got this a couple of days ago. So it's I cite the year is 2022. Then we have the magnetic North Pole and the geomagnetic North Pole. I don't know the differences between these two, and I just assume these three are all just to get you confused anyway. So here are the coordinates for these, and I will actually cite these in a screenshot later to show that I actually get these from Wikipedia. This is an interesting one. The actual North Pole comes from a channel back in 2017 from a guy named Matrix Break. Now his channel is no longer active, and he gave these coordinates. And I sent a message to him and I said, where did you get that? Can you give me your source? And he never responded. But I liked his channel. He had good info. So take it or leave it for this reference. And these last three, this is the nothing to see here, folks. This one here, Crocker Land, Bradley Land, and Sanikoff Land, this all had to do with 3 explorers who went up to the North Pole looking for land or whatnot. You can see the years that they were doing this. And they all turned out to be fake or whatever. Again, I'll show some sources in a minute of what Wikipedia has to say, but it all amounts to nothing here, people. And these are the coordinates that these places have, and I'll cite where I get these from. So we have these notable locations, and now if we map them on here, this is what we get. So we have, this is Sanikoff Land. This is, which to me sounds like Santa Claus land.
Yeah.
But that's one. And we just notice it's in this dark blue thing. What this is, who knows, but it's always curious to me, why is this dark blue here? So that's that. And then we have, here's the other two explorers. That's their place. This is the authorities' true north, or the geographic North Pole. This is the magnetic north. This is the geomagnetic north. And here is where Matrix Break said the North Pole is. So these come from Google Earth, and what I'm doing is just typing in the coordinates and putting them all here. But still, we're all in this area kind of where we expect to be. So then this is just me saying, here's where I get these coordinates from. It's from Wikipedia. So here are the three North Poles from the authorities. Crocker Land. This is kind of a reference. He was at a certain place, these coordinates, and then he said he looked northwest and approximately 130 miles. But then here we see is a map from Wikipedia, and this is where they say it is. So this is where I get my coordinates from.
Okay.
And then same with Bradley Land and Sanikoff Land. So all I'm doing here is citing coordinates to say this is where I get this from. And now here's the nothing to see here, folks, because like you just go on Wikipedia, it's like the first few sentences, like Crocker Land. It is now believed that Perry, the explorer who supposedly founded or found Crocker Land, fraudulently invented the island. Crocker Land, you can read it on Wikipedia, like Crocker Land was like the name of the banker, Crocker, I think. And that's who financed him. So that's why it's named Crocker Land. Surprise, surprise, it was a banker who financed it. But you can read this on Wikipedia. It's short and, nothing to see here, folks. Bradley Land. It is now known. It is now known there is no land at that location. And Cook's observation, Frederick Cook was the explorer, were based on either a misidentification of sea ice or an outright fabrication. Okay, so and then Sanikoff Land, guess what? Okay, here we go. Was a phantom island in the Arctic Ocean. Its supposed existence became something of a myth in 19th century Russia. So were there more explorers that went up here or whatnot? I don't know. These are just the ones I know. I haven't done deep research. This is just a surface level look at it, but still. So we just look at these three right in the 1800s and 1900s, and we get like fraudulently invented, fabrication, misidentification, phantom island, myth, nothing to see here, folks. All these things that we saw up here, not here, not here, nothing's up here. Same old story. Like the thing with Santa Claus, like you find out Santa Claus isn't real when you're 10, 12 or whatever, and then you sort of forget Santa Claus and the North Pole with it. And this is postcard I found on Facebook. It's this is Perry, Perry, and he was sponsored by the Masonic stamp, member of the Cane Lodge. So here the symbol right here. So all Freemason stuff. And I assume if you dug deeper into this, you just probably find the same old things we would expect to find. It's all fake. It's all this. It doesn't make sense. So I guess what I've shown there is.
Besides the face, I guess you've seen that face too. I made that video about the face because I was going to point it out, that face that's in the middle of that North Pole thing. It's a man's face. You can see the nose and the ear is up at the top. But
I did see that video. Is the face right? Is this the nose?
That's the nose. Yeah, and the chin is there, and then the eye is up next to the nose, and then back in the, like if you go farther north on the screen, at least the ear is up there at the top. You see that? Yeah, that little, not that wide, but yes, right there. That's like the ear.
Okay.
So you can kind of see, I mean, it looks like a face by all intents and purposes. I don't know why they would put a face there, but interesting.
Yeah. All right. So that takes us to the Mercator map and the Google map comparison. So we all know this map. This is very familiar. So what I'm going to do is just to kind of get a rough orientation is how do these two compare? Of course, for all we know, they're both fake. This is probably fake. Is this fake? Maybe, maybe not. You probably heard the tale that Mercator had correspondence with John Dees back in his time, and John Dees was some well-known occultist or whatnot. So who knows, but still, this is what we got to work with. And so we start here, and then I flip Greenland upside down for you here, Ellen, as you had said in one of your videos, to match with this. So we start with Greenland, and then there's Iceland. Here's Sweden, Finland, Norway. This gets a little, I wouldn't say iffy, but you can see right here how this piece of land comes in, and it's got this little waterway here. That's that. But then it comes up here and like forms this triangle, and this triangle doesn't quite fit here. It looks like right at the top of my cursor, some water has come in. But this here appears to be that. And then we have this little tiny island right there, which appears to be that. So these line up, but there's been some water flooding or whatnot over on this one. And then we go to these three islands, which is kind of iffy, but this looks to be this. This here looks to be sort of this. And this doesn't really line up very well with that, but it's still like a 1, 2, 3, and a 1, 2, 3. And then we have a triangle right here, which appears to be that. Doesn't quite line up great, but it's good enough, I guess. And then this thing here, I don't even see it here, so I have no idea what it is, but there it is. Then we come back to this triangle, which looks to be right here.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this inlet of water, which is right here. And then it comes up and has this little bump here, which appears to be this island, as it looks like to be on here. And this inlet of water is a good sort of measure of how this compared to this is skewed, how they're different. Because if you look at the distance from the top of my cursor from here to here, you see here it's about here to here. So this one is wider, but then when we go from here to here versus here to here, this one's shorter. So Mercator, just based on this little piece, comparing it, Mercator looks wider, yet shorter. And it gets real funky up here. So next is, this is another iffy one, but I'm going to go through a couple slides to say, is this here, this is called the New Siberian Islands. Is this the tip of this left over? Because for all we know, these whole Hyperborean islands, the Bargos Islands, they could have been nuked or whatever, or destroyed. Are they even there anymore? Maybe, maybe not. But again, is this even real anyway? But let's pretend it is. So this New Siberian Islands almost looks like it's the tip of this. And I'll show you though, because that assumes that this piece right here is this triangle. And I'll show you over a few slides now. First, if we just note that this opening here appears to be this between Alaska and Russia. This island, which is called Wrangler Island, looks to be here. And then, so this point appears to be right here. And I'll go on one more slide to compare this because it's real iffy. When you compare this coastline to this coastline, it's So we'll start here at this coast, which appears to be this little one here. And we come up and it kind of goes inward and then up. Now here it goes here, and then here's where it's coming inward and comes up to this triangle point. So it's rough to see. And let me come back a slide or two so we can see that a little better. So we can kind of see it comes up and is a little bit inward, and it comes up to this triangle point, and is this line right here, is that basically this?
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah.
maybe,
I mean,
maybe not.
there's like it's kind of just inverted up there on the right, it's cut away. I guess that's Russia that's up at the top.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I mean, what's the point in trying to hide stuff, or is this actually underwater now? I don't think so. I really don't think so. Didn't they just have uh like even in the 70s and 80s, weren't they doing documentaries supposedly on the North Pole? And now there's like hardly anything there as far as Google Earth shows. I mean, wasn't there like some sort of Arctic landmass that they had as the North Pole, and now there's like nothing? It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I always traditionally thought it was just like a gigantic sheet of ice, just totally covered.
Yeah,
So yeah, and according to this,
it's just a big
nothing there.
open sea, which doesn't make any sense.
But isn't global warming supposed to have melted the whole sheet up here? I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
not too up on that, but
I don't know. I just don't believe any of their lies anymore. I don't. Nothing they say, nothing, not even NASA or, this whole space race thing. I think it's all like a deception still.
yeah, I agree. Okay, so coming back, so we started here, looked at these three for relative comparison, try to draw these lines best I can to come to this conclusion that this triangle point, I believe, is this. And a little bit more on that is this piece here. We looked at this a minute ago. This is that inlet with the island on the outside, and we can see it right here. So this appears to be this, which would put the triangle point here. Then, again, that would be New Siberia is the New Siberian Islands, this little tip. And then we come, here's Wrangler Island again. Here's that opening here again. This inlet appears to be that. This is a very interesting point, and almost the whole point of the video later on, we'll get to this, is this area, how it's so close. Here's a close area as well, and these are some close areas, but I'm in the middle of the United States, so this is on a different continent, so maybe some other people can have an interest in checking that out. Greenland is just, who knows what's going on with Greenland. But this, I'll show later in the video, this is an accessible point, so it's nice and close. And here we notice that it's just nice and close. And if this nice and close area, and this piece right here on the island is this, then this is also nice and close. So that's the point of interest. And then we come to here, and this is where it just totally falls apart. This area makes no sense with this. And if I try to draw it out, once you get past this close area and they start to separate a little bit more and more and more as you go through this area. So I'm roughly trying to draw that out. This is basically a best guess draw line, and it's not a great guess. But we can see it has that separation out. Of course, once you get down to Hudson Bay, my lines are covering it, but the shape of this versus the shape of that, they don't make good sense. They're very much out of alignment.
Yeah, that's a huge mess. I mean, where do they even get all those little chopped up islands? That's odd.
Don't know. And this is what is all this? So is this, if we compare these, like, have these all popped up since? Again, I think it was Autodidactic, if I remember, made a good point on this, and he said our maps have like the Tropic of Cancer on them, and we're not in that age. So the map itself is just from a long age past. Shouldn't we have the Tropic of, I don't know, Pisces? I'm not sure how all that works, but that's what he said, and it's just an interesting side point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, again, this area is just, I can't really make heads or tails of it. It really looks like this coastline. If I'm gonna make these look the same, this coastline should just come right down here, and all this is just whatever. So yeah, that's a big question mark. This is, it's Hudson Bay. They're a little different over here, but we can still see it. Here's another iffy one, like this coastline kind of, it looks like it, but it kind of doesn't. But when you compare, like, okay, here's Hudson Bay, and then here's this island next to Greenland. So here's Hudson Bay. I don't know if that's supposed to be the island. This area, this general area here, it's just all out of whack. If you spend time looking at it, you'd be like, these just don't line up. So this is where it's like, you can only do your best guess at some of this. And then this takes us back to Greenland. So anyway, that's just a looking around and comparing these different points to say, how well does this compare? And at some point, places it compares very well, and others it compares terribly.
Yeah.
So given that, Mercator map transposed poorly onto Google Earth. I stress this word poorly, okay? So, because this is a best guess. All right, so we're going to start at this point and go back to the triangle. So again, we looked at these slides where I'm trying to say, is this triangle I'm looking at on these two maps? We went through all that. So assuming that's right, then I'm going to say this piece is that piece, roughly in that area. Then here's that inlet of rivers. I just kind of put that triangle there. Put that there, guessing, rough guess. This line kind of goes by the three islands, There's the bottom corner. Real rough guess there, because like I said, this whole area just, maybe someone can take a better shot at this, because my mind just kind of can't see the skewing between these maps. Maybe someone has a better mind for that and they could get it. But I mean, do we even need a super accurate map of this to begin with?
No, we just need to go there,
Right, exactly. I mean, we need to see it. So this is another best guess, and this totally doesn't line up. I could go into why it doesn't line up, but just taking a guess, taking another guess, putting the rivers in on Mercator, drawing a circle, best guess of the rivers on Google Earth, circle, bring back, there are 4 islands, bring back the North Poles. Again, this one is matrix break, and this is the authorities' true north, roughly in that vicinity. And if this is at all roughly has any accuracy to it, are these remnants of this island, and are these remnants on this island? Is the tip here the New Siberian Islands? Don't know. And if these are remnants, what is all this? This must be all new islands or whatnot that popped up, supposedly, because all these are right in here. So,
well, maybe what they did too, when they removed all the pieces of Mercator's map, or Mercator's map, however you pronounce his name, maybe they just scrambled them over there to the left. Maybe they took, those that are missing, like the one at the northeast in the image on the left. Maybe they took that and they hacked it into pieces and threw it over towards the left in their CGI.
Right. And that's the word right there, in their CGI.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Well, that's what most people don't think about, is like all the imagery that we've ever been shown of Earth is CGI. There's no actual images of anything. Now, I have seen where they've shot rockets up into the atmosphere and the rocket is filming. But the ones that I've seen, they actually hit something and stop spinning. And then they start falling back down. And because of the lens, the fisheyeing effect of the lens, it makes it look like there's round edges of the Earth. But as the camera moves back and forth and hitherto falling back down to the Earth, it goes from concave to convex and flat, and I mean, it's all a camera lens, that does this effect. So what are we looking at? What, I don't know. I just say question the narrative, because everything we've been taught is a lie.
Agreed. Yeah, I tend to believe that the whole mapping system is something they were developing in the military or whatnot decades and decades before any of this Google Earth stuff came out. And it's a whole mathematical transposition system. Somehow, whatever is really going on, let's say there's a real map and they have this stuff through Google or whatnot, this, that, and the other. And so you can punch in coordinates on one, or punch in the land outlay on one, in their fake one, like it transposes it into their new system. And it's a complete mathematical model. And this is how this all works. Like what's that thing when planes go between South America and Australia, I think, like they disappear off the plane finder websites.
Yeah.
Like their system cannot account for that, which is ridiculous, right? They can show you everywhere. Well, but this one area we can't. Why? Oh, because of some official reason, blah, blah, blah. We have it all summed up, and here's the official explanation. We say it with officiality, so you all believe it. And like, oh, yep.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's right there in front of your face. Why can't we see it?
Yeah, what's the big deal? They were telling us, they were feeding that line about why they couldn't have satellites go over the North Pole. They said that they would fall to Earth because of, there's something to do with the magnetism or something. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why can't they go over the North Pole? And then, apparently, what's his name that has Virgin Air, he was supposed to have been given permission at some point, or at least he was trying to get permission to fly over the North Pole with his airlines. And subsequently, I guess that never happened.
All right, Richard Branson.
Yeah, Branson.
Yeah, him and Epstein were going to take Lolita Express over the North Pole, probably.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be the space guy. Get us.
Yeah.
Now it's Elon Musk. They're getting like, it's like we went in space 60s, but you guys, these super geniuses with these massive companies, what's going on with the space thing?
Yeah, well, people don't think about, where do these people get their money from to start these huge, manufacturing billions of dollars businesses. That it's not them. They're just the forefront guy. They're the figurehead to point fingers at and stuff. But they're making their millions themselves.
Right. Like they just come up to the surface and play a role or whatnot, and they probably go underneath and whatever, have their seances and stuff. And
oh yeah. They're just bought and paid for to be figureheads and to be spokespeople. But I'm telling you, if you've ever heard Elon Musk, at least in the past 3 years, you're just thinking, what in the world? This guy's a scientist. Does he ever talk in any sort of scientific terms? No, never. It's been a joke if you've seen any of his stuff. But he was warning humanity at one point against artificial intelligence, but he no longer does that, but promotes it. So what are we dealing with? Is he already a robot? I don't know. Anyway, let's keep going.
Well, if you found out tomorrow, you wouldn't have to be surprised. You'd be like, oh, well, okay, now I know. Everyone else would be freaking out. You'd be like, well, I knew it was something. Okay, so Prudhoe. So this takes us to Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. So we look at these maps and we look at the close point, and there is a town right there, Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. It
Okay.
is 61 miles from, so from here to there is 61 miles
Oh.
per Google Earth. And this appears to be maybe where the island
That's what it looks
is.
like.
And if it was destroyed or whatnot, still to get within these waters, we're talking 61 miles. And earlier we were looking at thousands of miles.
Mm-hmm.
I think like if you could get here, which I don't even know how you'd get here, but well, maybe from here to here. Oops. I should have measured this, like from here to the supposed North Pole. This was about, what was this? I think it was 2,500. Let me go back to that real quick.
2,700.
So this looks not quite half, maybe a third. I'll roughly add it. 2,700 divided by 3, 900. Yeah, duh, I can't do that in my head. Oh, so like 900. That's a lot of. That's a long way to go in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but 61 miles is feasible, but so I wonder if something like you could talk to an experienced ship captain up in this area that knows these waters. What do they have to say? Could they be hired? Could a boat be chartered just to get out to here? And I think the longest distance cameras go like 30 miles. Binoculars, I forget. I looked that up. I forget, but probably around the same. So you could probably come up close and at least even just see, if not fly a drone out a little bit, or maybe if the experienced ship captain has been out further and knows, can you get out here on a boat? And would you, if it's just empty water, would you just even feel anything? If this is where supposedly the great vast mother tree and all that, or these advanced lands are, would you feel anything without putting any exaggerations there to try to feel something artificially? Just, neutrally say what's happening out here. So in this place, Prudhoe Bay, so it says several thousand transient workers support the Prudhoe Bay oil field. So key word there, transient. People are coming and going. So 1,400 population as of 2020. And they have an airline up there. So transient workers, they have an airport. It's a recognized name, Alaska Airlines. So this is a place you can actually get to. I live in Southeast US and I looked up the plane ticket. It's like $1,500. And they have hotels. They have a general store. They have services there. So this isn't like trying to get an expedition to go to Nord, Greenland.
Mm-hmm.
Or somewhere coming up from the Russian side. So there you go. I mean, Prudhoe Bay is a lesser but feasible target. It's a start. I'm not saying I'm going to go there and that anyone should go there, but just to put it out there, if we can't get to the center because the military will shoot us down, then you kind of sort of take a baby step. And this is one. And the other one I can think of is coming at it from this angle and hitting the New Siberian Islands, which this is in the way right now. But this route going up through Greenland, I don't know. I don't think that just doesn't look right to me. So here's one way in. Here's another way in. Everything else, maybe you could come here and jump on. But these islands, if you look at them, they just look desolate and empty. This is just northern Canada. I wouldn't even want to mess with that. But maybe, but this seems very, I didn't look into this, but this one's feasible. They have an airport, they have hotels, they have restaurants.
Yeah.
So, and that's really all I've got. I have another section. I don't know if you want to go through it, but it's just kind of a way of talking about the route to make this happen may be through public awareness as opposed to individuals and small parties trying to get there.
Yes, absolutely. I believe that, if we can just reach out to anyone in the North, anyone that's around in those areas of Russia and Canada and Alaska and Greenland, all these people. If there's anyone out there listening that knows someone, has family, in these northern realms, let's get the narrative going. We want to know what's at the North Pole. We want to go and see this with our own eyes and to find out, because I have heard all kinds of different stories about the North Pole and how the birds will actually migrate to the north during winter. It doesn't make any sense. Why would they go north if they're not snowbirds or some sort of Arctic bird? And these are normal birds, that are just over in Canada, or even some of the ones, I guess, over in Russia. They just fly north. Why would they do that? There's questions. We have so many questions and not enough answers. And that's why I think it's imperative for us to get this message out to the masses, to amplify the message and to get it across the world, to say, hey, look, we want to know, is there anybody else that can feed us information about these northern lands? Because we're curious. I can only say, just from what I see with my own eyes and the shapes of things, I'm like, that has to absolutely be where the mother tree was. The way those islands are round like that, and it looks like the game Simon that they had in the 80s, 70s, 80s. They had that game with the different colors, and you play Simon Says or whatever, and it's like flashes the different colors, and you're supposed to keep up with it and remember which colors are in what order. Yeah, I knew that game. Am I telling my age?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing when I look at that. It looks like Simon.
It is. It's like the game Simon. And I don't even know if they have that anymore. I think they made one that was more rectangular, like in a rectangle shape or something, But then you see what they do. I mean, it's like they have to keep this in our collective conscience somehow. It's weird.
Yeah, and that's when I was making these slides, I actually went on Google and looked up Simon. So, and it's still out there. I'm sure it's a gender appropriate version or something these days.
Oh gosh, yeah, I know, right?
But that question though, what's there, is they have to keep that hidden, because it's going to reveal, for us to know even a little bit of info will reveal so much. And this may be kind of the public awareness route, or a point in that marketing approach, is to the degree that something is hidden and is covered up, is to the degree that it's hiding something apparently juicy underneath. So I would assume that there are huge answers to whatever's going on at the North Pole. So I guess if we go this route, then I'll read. I got a couple more slides. So we want to go to the North Pole and see it with our own eyes. No authorities, no satellite photos, no Google Earth, no tricks or games, with our own eyes, not through the authorities' eyes, not through their technology. How can this be accomplished? If the area is guarded by the military, then individual or small party attempts are likely to be death by military. An alternative is a public support, strength in numbers approach. I say that because I don't feel that's super likely to have that happen anytime soon, but still, maybe we can be planting seeds, and maybe that could be a decades out plan or something. Public support means a marketing campaign, but would the public at large even be interested? Maybe, maybe not. This is, we're all sidetracked with Netflix and whatnot, and the Kardashians and all this stuff. Would it be censored? Probably. Is it an endeavor worth pursuing? Why not? With enough people behind it, maybe something can happen in time. I mean, it's only basically like it's going to reveal huge answers to what this world, or what's really going on. Or maybe we'll just find empty water up there, but at least that question will be asked, and then we'll be on to the next one.
Yeah. And why would they be trying to censor open water though? That doesn't make any sense. Why would they even bother having a military presence, for open water? What does it mean? That doesn't make any sense at all. That why is it a no-fly zone? Why is it, all of these things to prevent people from actually going there? And I just, they're just hiding too much, and it's time to know. Anyhow,
that touches on that point I was saying, like, to the more elaborate and more effort they go to cover or that someone goes to cover something up, it means what's on the other side of that is something big. And right there, like this first line where I say, what would the marketing angle be to create a mystery? And like right there, that makes me think like videos regarding asking these questions. What are the big questions? And pose them, because a mystery is something that sucks people in. So the marketing angle is to create, at least what I'm thinking out loud here as I go through this, is to create a mystery, get people wondering and interested in the North Pole, appeal to their imagination and sense of fantasy. It's sort of like, and I'll also add, make short, well-produced edutainment videos, cover various topics on the North Pole in general, topics safely presented within the public awareness level. You can't get too out there and because they'll just dismiss it. You can't get too conspiracy theory. And if you do, you have to present it in the right way. But if you get people wondering, and like I was saying before we hit record, like you start to think of like reverse Hollywood, like Hollywood used for good, the same type of thing, like great production that we could do, not great, but at least decent. So, because good production is pretty to look at. Like I try to do a decent production in these slides. And so good production, not long. It's interesting. Like it's sort of like Avatar meets, YouTube meets North Pole, sort of like that. And you're using entertainment as a form of education and well-produced videos to capture people's interest. And those things, like you're saying there, Ellen, like these questions, and pose them to people, get their imaginations going, get them appealed to it, just as trying to plant seeds, maybe as a tactic to generate public interest. And then, all right, it simply comes down to this. One, there are questions to be answered about the North Pole. So this is as if you're presenting to the general public. Say, look, we just have some questions. You can put those questions out there, like you said. Why is this place so guarded? Why can't we fly over this? Why this? Why that? Legitimate questions, not too into the conspiracy zone, too frou-frou stuff. Like there are legitimate questions here. And then you can say to the public, we do not trust the government. We do not trust that the government and other official agencies are telling us the truth. Then you relate to them. Are they ever truthful about anything? And three, we only want to see what's at the North Pole with our own eyes. Is this request unreasonable? Something along these lines. You're presenting it to the public in this fashion where you're not giving a lot of room to be like, oh, you insane conspiracy theorist or this, that. You're doing it in a way that people will say, that's reasonable. I could see that. I could get behind that. What is at the North? I mean, if you could create that curiosity in enough people to say, what is at the North Pole? Why are they hiding this, that, or the other? What's the deal? And if you get enough people behind you, then people equals power, and then whatever. You get funding, you're pushing the government, whatever.
Yeah. And so one of the things is, though, most of the people out here in the world think they've already seen it in National Geographic shows. They think that they've already seen the North Pole because of some sled dogs and some, mushers that have gone into the snow and said that they're at the North Pole. But that's all smoke and mirrors. This is part of the Hollywood production of it all. Now, there have been expeditions that came together in recent times that they were going to lease a Russian iceberg ship, is an iceberg breaker or something. It's actually a nuclear type of ship that has to bust through icebergs, supposedly. And I don't know whatever happened. They were taking this year to prepare, and then it all disbanded and fell apart, like everything else does that's involved with, expeditions to the North Pole, like true expeditions that are put on by the people. So what is happening? That's the biggest question. Like, what is really happening to all of this? And now we have this other explorer who is actually hiking up there now. And is he going to make it? I don't know. So I've actually signed on to his channel, and maybe I'll put that link in the description box, because we need to just create this huge narrative around this. Because it is a mystery, and until we have the knowledge of what this mystery is, it's going to remain a mystery, and we're going to want to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we were saying, I was talking to a friend the other day about this, and he brought up a couple points. Like, people have had ideas like going up there on a research mission to explore the biological this, that, and the water, whatnot, or the birds that you said going up north. I mean, imagine if you had a decent amount of funding and to actually fund that with legitimate scientists and say, guys, look into this. Why are they going up there? Of course, the military would probably, send them on their way, if not worse. And another one was getting a ship in the water and putting the correct certain flag on it that the military recognizes, and they'll let you go. But what are you going to do? Take a regular civilian vessel up there with a military flag? I mean, they'll probably sink you just for doing that. You'd have to have one of their ships, and one of their ships is not cheap. So this is a route, the public route. I think there are many routes, and I'm for whichever route works. This is just one that we're kind of talking about here. But man, imagine a day where it's not even so much that we have to worry about the military, but we get to use their equipment to go up there. I mean, coming down to world events, like sometimes it feels like, we're either going to end up in this Mad Max world, or we're going to end up in this amazing new world, like something like that's coming. But if this new good world happens and they take a lot of these bad guys down, basically the bankers in their system and all the other, all that stuff we all know about, you see the financial burden will start to lift off of people in terms of taxes and regulations and all this. And there will be more breathing room for us. And I'm hoping that in that kind of world, we can push these things out there and not have to even take some 50-year-old icebreaker. Let's hop on a military boat. I might be going too far with that, but let's just say, speaking in the ideal, let's take out their equipment, because they've got it all and then some, and see what's up there once and for all way. And I wanted to be able to have it where trustworthy people can go up there, that there's verifications along the lines. I mean, I thought if this ever has something like this happen, I'm in the accounting world. So I would want to have, if there was any fundraising going on, it would be put up, all income statements are posted online and every single expenditure is posted online, not some kind of report that says, oh, we spent this on this. No, it's the receipts are actually shown. You can track it down to the penny. This kind of trustworthiness. So we can really, if someone goes up there with a camera, we know it's not some fake stuff. Somehow have these, and I don't know what all the different steps are and such to verify that, but to have this as part of it. So if someone goes up there, that you can get it back and say, okay, this wasn't just the usual fake stuff that they're always playing.
Mm-hmm. Some sort of accountability for funding and all of that, instead of just saying they did this and that, and there's really no proof.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we're at the North Pole, right? Like you're saying, they stick a marker in the ground, and it's like a snowy day in some guy's backyard in Iowa. You don't know. I
mean, obviously, like I said, they could just be up in Alaska and find some flat plane and go, "Yep, we're at the North Pole now." And believe me, this is what I've lived Hollywood, so I know this is what they do, I mean, well, look at what they do now. They come to Jackson, Georgia, and they film it like it's in the city for Stranger Things and, Hawkins, and then, Walking Dead, they pretend like they're in Indiana or Virginia or wherever, they just make up stories, and then they create this whole narrative to go with it. And, it's all fake, every single bit of it, down to the moon and the sun and all this stuff. I mean, it's all fake, and people love it. They absolutely love Hollywood. And I'm like, if you only knew what Hollywood was doing to your brain. And your mind is just tricks. All of it is one big trick. It's black magic, every bit of it. So, and that goes with everything else that we're experiencing out here in the world. It's all lies and deception. And we need to reveal the wizard, but this is one of the main goals. I mean, I want to absolutely know what is at the North Pole. Very significant information is at the North Pole and the South Pole, for that matter.
Yeah, I want to see that question answered, hopefully, in my lifetime.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I do feel though, and I don't know how you feel about this, I feel like we are headed directly to a truth singularity point with just about everything, honestly. From what I've seen with grassroots efforts that are absolutely hacking at this dark, deceptive entity that is pretty much everywhere, but with the UFO community, more is being done and pressed for truth on that. And then obviously the pharmaceutical company and Hollywood and all of these things, like we are presenting evidence and then exposing them. So we're turning on the light to shine on all these dark things. And I just came across today a guy who is supposedly a Freemason. He is spouting all kinds of stuff about Freemasonry and, you know, talking about how dark its central core is. So exposure is the best thing we can do. So we are pleading to anyone out there in cyberland, if you have any friends, family, any relations, anyone out in any of these northern realms in these countries, please let us know. We want to hear from them about their experiences, their life experiences with any kind of information on the North Pole or any sort of foundations of what we can maybe chew on as a lead to gain access or to gain information, anything that might help provide information for the population about this northern realm, because there's too many mysteries that need to be revealed. And this one's got a lot. This has a lot of information that's just being hidden from us. So that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for bringing this presentation to the table, because you know, I've always been fascinated with this area of the world from all the tales that I've been hearing. You know, you hear about Hollow Earth and you hear about the South Pole and Admiral Byrd, and then there's some video, it's supposed to be Russian video of, you know, this vortex. They're supposed to be in the space station, you know, and it's probably CGI, but they're looking in on this hole that's made in the clouds, and it's supposed to be sucking in the clouds in a way. And it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting CGI video, I guess, if it is CGI, but it's supposed to be the North Pole. And, you know, I don't know. We just want to know. That's the whole thing. We have too many questions and not enough answers.
Yeah, I've seen that video. Yeah, it's kind of like we, the people, want to know. And on that note, I hope there's people doing this exact same thing, but for the South Pole.
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
looking north, but that one's just as much. I mean, if penetrating through either of these and getting some starting answers or whatever, they both are huge. They'll have so much to reveal about this world. I mean, maybe the biggest answers are at both of these poles. So,
well, it would be fascinating. Yeah, fascinating to reveal the information. And absolutely, you know, the military guys are held to secrecy because of the contracts they sign, just like I did in Hollywood. You know, I had to sign all these non-disclosure agreements and contracts and all this stuff. But that is, again, the black magic, your willpower. You're signing over your will to these dark intruders of our world. They control us through these contracts and all of these narratives, even verbal contracts and, you know, soul contracts. There's all kinds of things going on. But if you do not sign over your willpower to these people, they have no control over you. And that goes for your soul, because, you know, that's a whole narrative of what the Vatican did to us. But the Yeah, they've got these people, these military people who just wanted to provide for their families. You know, they've got them under their thumb for sure, and held and bound by contracts, and they will absolutely do bad things to these people if they reveal any of the knowledge that's been held secret for so long.
Right.
Yep, we got to stop this though. We got to stop that part of our world. So, well, hopefully people will come across this video, and if anybody has any further information, please do get in contact with me. And if you wish to contact Jeff, please send me an email or contact information of yourself, and I will be sure to forward it to him. So yeah, well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much for this. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, thank you for having me, Ellen. And you know, look forward to more videos on your channel. I only found your channel like a week ago, I think.
No.
I saw you on Didactic, and then I was like, oh, you're doing all the North Pole. I was like, yeah. I kind of almost thought that had all just faded out and no one was really kind of looking at it, and also talking the lingo surrounded by it, you know, like that last video you made with the symbolism and all that coming back. And that's cool, because I feel like kind of back on this, because my last time I was active on this, I think was 2017-18. Just faded out, and you know, kind of feeling a sense of renewal on this. And I can tell you, like, back in the day, when I was more involved, like, just like, you know, the people you got to know and the friendships and stuff, that was like, it was cool it's cool to have this in your life. I mean, it's like living through a movie, and it's like, what is there? You just don't get to watch a 2-hour movie and figure it out, but it's kind of an adventure. It's from behind your computer. Maybe someday it'll be something more than that, but it's kind of nice to have it back. You know, it's like there's at least some awe and mystery left in life, because if you don't have something like this and you just look at the regular world, I mean, man, it's just flat and dead.
Yeah, exactly. It's dismal out there in 9-to-5 land.
And I'll get a little frou-frou. I hope there's a portal up there or something, because I want out.
You're not the only one.
It's so, I want to play with higher level players. The game here is very, it's shallow. There's a lot of, there's plenty of varieties, plenty of good stuff here, but it's, I don't know. I just think there's much higher ways to exist here. And if you're ready to move on, hopefully you can.
Exactly. You know, we're all finding each other though. I mean, believe me, I've found more like 5D type friends in the past 3 or 4 years than I've ever found in all my life. And I've always been out on a limb, like kind of weird, you know, with all these tales and stuff. And I'm like, I've just been so kind of down on it, because I'm like, where is anybody that even has the curiosity of a child anymore? Because I've always kept it, but I've never been forward with speaking about it like this. So, and now I don't even care what people think, because I have experienced too many weird things that I cannot explain. And it has just been leading me down this path. And I feel like, you know, we have to start holding hands and walking down together and sharing all of our experiences and not being afraid to be out there. And that's really, you know, what it entails, is just being the lion, step out, stand in your truth, and speak. So thank you. With that, you know, thank you so much for sharing what you know, because this is how we're going to get to the other side of all of this, is by everyone just coming together and saying, hey, I got something to add to that. And then you just throw some more information in the puzzle.
Right.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you. This has been excellent. And I'm glad that someone else did all the little equations and the distances and all that, because I would have never even thought to have put on a presentation with that, but this helps a lot. So thank you so much. And of course, we'll be in touch. You know, if people want to share some information, I'll definitely be back in touch with you.
Okay. Sounds great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Okay. And you take care.
Okay. Bye. Have a good evening.